Conversation, baby. Ha, they call it Mr. Conversation, baby. Come sit in this hot seat, latest information daily. He the voice of the streets, can't compare, so versatile. Trying to keep up, it's gonna take a while. Talk games on wild style. Just tune in, let him run you down. They call him Mr. Conversation, baby. Come sit in this hot seat, latest information daily. He the voice of the streets, can't compare, so versatile. Trying to keep up, it's gonna take a while. Talk games.
All right, y'all. What's up? What's up? What's up? What's up? It's your boy EJ, aka Mr. Conversation. Y'all are tuned in to another episode of The Hot Seat. Listen, I have here with me District 9 City Council candidate Dr. Rocky Marsh in the building, y'all. What's up? What's up, man?
Hey, EJ, man. Good to be with you once again.
No problem. Let me go ahead and give you your applause, man.
Okay.
All right. So we're going to hop straight into this one. Just to put everything out there, I do know this gentleman. I've known him for about 4 or 5 years now, but we do business, and he's always been all the way around the city. So I definitely wanted to get him back on. This is probably our third or fourth, a different type of interview in some different type of form or fashion. All right. So what made you decide to run for District Seat 9 at this time?
Well, first of all, EJ, I just want to give you some big shout out, man. This is truly an honor to get here and sit here and have another conversation with you. I know this is part of the platform, but yet again, this is what the result is of having a connection to the community looks like, being able to return the love and support to other people who already been given support. And that's probably the best answer to your question. We are here right now, me as a candidate for city council post seat 9 citywide at this moment, because it was an evolution of showing up for our community in years since I've moved here 10 years ago. And I think every year since I've lived here, I've been able to invest in something for the community, whether it be voter registration, whether it be organization, whether it be party at the polls, whatever it may be has evolved. And I think that's probably the best way to answer that question is that when you get involved in your community, it don't have to be just civics, politics. It can be education, the PTA. It could be your sports team, helping out with your kids' team. When you get involved in something and you care for it, it's going to evolve into something. So my activity, my involvement has involved in care for this community, for its cities, for its residents. And that's why I have once again offered myself up for service on our city council post seat 9 at large that services and cares for the entire city and county of 200,000 plus residents.
All right. That leads me into the next question. This is how you know somebody professional right here. The answer automatically leads the interviewer to the next question. Perfect. What are the three, or you know what? We won't say three. What are the biggest issues facing this city in general right now at this time?
Well, that's a great question to get really a good conversation started. And we can go so many places with that. And instead of the challenges or biggest things, I'll tell you the biggest opportunities that we have here in Columbus, Georgia. One thing that I would love to see is more of an investment in some major areas, specifically talent retention. I did a review of some statistics from CSU and some of the colleges and looked at the percentage of students that live here that attend CSU, graduate, and leave, in addition to the number of residents or students that come here to learn and they are leaving. So I would love to see a great investment in talent retention, because as we know, we do have a unemployment rate. We do have a shortage of talent for some of the sought out jobs in technicians and special jobs. So I would love to see us have a galvanizing plan to retain talent here so that when kids graduate from either high school or college, instead of looking to run to Atlanta, which we know a lot of kids do, they want to run somewhere. And there's nothing wrong with pursuing your dreams and things you want. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'd rather them want to run to the opportunities that we have here in Columbus rather than run away from the city, thinking that what they want is not available here in their very own city.
Mm. Okay, so with that, talent retention, let's get into that a little more. What are some ways that we can? All right, are there anything that we can offer? Is there anything? What sort of walk me through that a little bit?
Sure. So when I talk about talent retention, I think about what are we needing and where are we going? I give you an example because I'm sure this question is going to come up about technology because I'm big on that. When I say talent retention, I mean, how are we tapping into the resources? When I served in the military 20 years, and when I got out, I was an instructor of a school called Soldier for Life. The entire mission of Soldier for Life was to prepare service members who were departing the military into the civilian sector. And their goal was to align what their skills were to what is needed in the civilian economy so that they can match up well with what's needed. Our job, what I see or foresee, what we can do with Columbus is do an analysis of what the specific talents that we need and then offer those in either some of our high schools or a college, which is actually existing. So I don't want to say we don't have it. However, I would love to see it maximized so that we have a pipeline, a direct pipeline, so that when someone graduates, when someone completes a program, that they have a job, a position, some opportunity waiting on them. I think that is one of our biggest challenges. There's a huge gap between when someone completes something and when someone actually starts pursuing their dreams.
Okay. I know personally for me, that was an issue for me. Even when I came back from the military and
Mhm.
I did, 4 years in. So I got out like 22, 23.
Yeah.
And when I came back though, I had the skills, but finding the places was the issue. Like, and it just kind of felt like there weren't that many places for me to do what I did.
And if they were there, they were not broadcasting those opportunities. And that's the marketing aspect of talent retention. You have to market, strategize, and you have to promote what the opportunities are so that people who have the skill sets know where to go to find the information they need.
Perfect, perfect. Okay, so for the voters who don't know you, what in your background makes you the best person for this job? I noticed you just said you did 20 years.
Sure, sure. So it's really up to the voters to decide who is the better candidate of choice for them because all the candidates who are in this race and all other race, all are going to have their own unique background of experience. So for various voters, their best pick may be somebody else based off something. But for me, I love to share my experience because it has made me who I am today, which I'm so proud of. Proud of my 20 years, 20 days, 9 hours, 15 minutes, and 11 seconds of serving the greatest nation in the world, United States. So I served in the United States Army. I was aviation. I was air traffic controller. I was in the control tower. Who would ever know that I would one day marry the chair of the Columbus Airport Commission? But 20 years in the days that I've mentioned, aviation, not only aviation, as you move through the ranks, you assume different responsibility jobs of airspace. For me, it was airspace management, operations management, and leadership. Being the first sergeant, being in charge of a company of overseas, deploying to Afghanistan, and short tours to include Korea, 3 tours in Korea. But after my time in uniform, I took the job that I was mentioning before. I was an instructor for the Soldier for Life program, which as you probably know, was a transition program where the instructor guided those service members through a transition process where they would re-identify what their skills are and train them how to make themselves relatable and marketable for the civilian economy so that they would not have a gap in their life. So after let's say couple of years of doing that, then I switched over to federal service. Well, now I'm a active federal employee in the budget management or financial space, which is something I actually did part-time in the military, where by managing budget, managing money.
So you know how to work them numbers then.
You got to know how to work numbers.
Okay.
And you know something, a lot of people are probably better at it than they expect. They just don't. That was the biggest challenge that I had to show service members, that they had a skill, but they didn't know how to describe it. And so a lot of people are good at something, especially numbers, or they might not think they are, but they know how to manage a budget from check to check. So everyone is skilled at some way in managing numbers. I just have to do it on a large scale for a very specific purpose.
So let me ask you a question. What's your doctorate in?
So I forgot. I got a doctorate in education. So I got to share the story with it, because when people hear doctor, they automatically go to medicine, not knowing that there are a lot of doctorate degrees in the world, mostly for practitioners who are doing something specific and they've reached the highest level of that. For me, the pursuit and eventually reaching doctorate wasn't just, I want to go be a doctor. It was because I was preparing myself for transition from the military, and I wanted to have as many skills and marketability as possible. So once I finished my undergraduate is in HR, because I was a personnel manager as a first sergeant in the military. And that's something you have to get good at if you're going to do it at all.
Which also would apply to what you're doing now.
You have to learn how to manage property, space, equipment, and the most important thing, you got to learn how to manage people and their skills. So I finished my HR degree, an undergraduate. Then I finished a education degree. And the goal was to, I was actually, one of the things I wanted to do, I wanted to go be a corporate trainer for companies when I got out. It just didn't happen that way. I ended up being an instructor, teacher, which is something that you must do long time in the military, is be an instructor as a non-commissioned officer. But this college that I was attending at the time, Trident University, made me a spokesperson for 1 year. So I was their person on their flyer, on their website, because they felt like I matched up well with what their goal was to service members. So they offered me this great plan for my doctoral. And because of my master's was in education, I did not have to take certain courses, which really made it attractive to finish my doctorate degree in education. So my doctorate is in pre-K through 12. And yes, that's a doctorate in education, but it is not like from the classroom roadmap into education.
Okay. So next question. Specific neighborhoods that you think that we can start targeting to make some changes, because, and I'm asking you this particularly because you're at large, so you'll be dealing with everyone and everybody's issues.
Sure.
So, for instance, I'm in District 3. Right? I'm Bunker Hill.
Okay.
And right across, Shirley Winston is in 4.
Correct.
A lot of things are going on right now. Could you give us some insight into some specific neighborhoods or different things that we can start targeting to just make Columbus better in general, and then we'll close in?
So one, about making the whole city better, you do have to micro target certain programs, certain areas. I agree. What I would like to add is I've lived in 2 districts. I live in District 2 currently, but I started off in Forest Road. Okay. Right across from the elementary school. And this is what I like to say, is that you just don't pick an area and say, let's improve this block or this neighborhood as much as we want to. Instead, or I would like to offer, is that we pick the neighborhoods that have the greatest need right now, because we have to balance. And I want to make sure that our listeners and viewers understand it's not necessarily a binary choice that we choose this neighborhood or choose this neighborhood, or we choose not to do this and choose this. It has to be a balanced approach, because we do not want to stifle economic growth and development for the sake of improvement of an area. We can do both. We can do both. So something that I had to do when you manage first, I'm glad we talked about my profession right now. This is why you have to learn how to know numbers and budget. Every year, we have a budget that we must maintain, which is why this year is a very important election, because this year is when we enter our elections, our budget cycle for council. That's going to happen later on in the summer. But every year, the city must manage a set number. Just like someone from paycheck to paycheck, they must manage that budget. No matter how much they want to do, they must manage that budget. When we manage money for projects, we have to prioritize what we need. Now, I would make an argument that a project needs to be on a higher priority than something else. That's something we can do, but you just don't pick, we're going to do the 1200 block of X street for whatever reason, just picking it. It must be strategic. It must make sense. And it's got to make sense for the money and for the purpose.
Okay, so I got to give you a little bit of pushback on that part.
Sure.
All right. Now, because I know I'm going to have 15 people in my ear saying, hey, man, you didn't say this. Well,
okay,
there are some people in some communities that feel underserviced versus other communities.
Mm-hmm.
We do understand in Columbus, Georgia, there has been a line from Macon Road on down and then on up. There's a difference. So when you hear something like that,
okay,
some people who don't know as much about council and how it works, it's easy to revert to, but I'm pretty sure they're going to say, hey, but what about us? Okay, like we get what you're saying, but we feel that we're underserviced in certain communities. So I'm glad you put that towards the end about servicing priority levels also.
Correct.
Okay, can you give me a little something more on that to reassure the people about that part?
Well, I'm glad you add that in. I'm glad for the pushback. This is the opportunity where you people, your listeners, viewers, our fellow neighbors need to connect and communicate with their leadership. Because I tell you one freaking thing right now, when people are upset and they contact people, it gets discussed at council. When you have a light out on your street, when you have a pothole that's tearing up your car, if you are blowing up your council, your representatives' phone, email, text, whatever, and you keep complaining enough, it gets a higher priority. This is what we should be working for. When I talk about priorities, and I mentioned that I would advocate for a community or a project if it needs to be higher, that's what I mean. Because not enough people, too many people are complaining and not doing nothing about it. I want to work for the people and be a voice that gets things done with the priority that it deserves. And so that's what it's about. So I understand, I hear them, and I receive that. That when I moved here, I too was told, because when you look around, I was here. I'm been visiting Columbus for a long time. When I was in the military, I was stationed here, but I never lived here. So when I started looking for my own residence, I was told the same thing. If you want to be something, move here, move here. Now, I didn't listen to any of that. I lived on Forest Road. I had a great time. I loved my neighborhood. The only reason I moved because it was a lease. It was up and I had to find another place to stay. But I didn't believe that. I didn't give into that. Instead, I just look for the best opportunities they have. I want your viewers to know they need to advocate for the leadership that advocates for them.
All right. Next question. Let's go to affordable housing, right? There are rising rent prices in the city. Now, I know there have been some national edicts that have been passed down as far as rent control and stuff. Is there anything else that we can potentially do in this city?
So I really love this conversation because it deserves a conversation of its own, in my opinion. That is actually a nationwide trend that I'm concerned about, as well as a statewide, specifically Columbus and Georgia. I looked at some numbers, a study. It has it's almost 50-50. Did you know that? Almost 50% of the properties here in this city, in this county, is owned and rented out. And because of that, when people are trying to keep up with the rising cost of anything, owners are passing the cost on to the renters because they know they have a population of people who are able to meet that due to military, due to retirement, due to something else. But for those who do not fall into one of those categories or prey to high prices that they either cannot afford or they have to forego something else. Now, to the question of what we can do, am I interested in some mechanism that we can put in place? Absolutely. Now, I want to say this because I hope this goes on to another conversation or topic, is that because I'm often asked, as most candidates are going to ask, they're going to ask, what are you going to do? Well, as this specific seat is a member of a 10-person council. So the goal is not that what Rocky is going to do, is what we're going to do. What Rocky wants to do is work with our other counselors to advocate for our residents when things are too high and come up with a plan that we can all get behind. Because I can go in there and I can yell and I can argue, but if you don't get people on your side to get a consensus and get a majority vote for a plan that we all can get behind, it doesn't work. But I do advocate for a mechanism that manages property owners or rent, because owning property is a way for longevity of families, not just pay, but for longevity of family and wealth.
All right. I've heard when it comes to city council and the times that they're available, people are saying that they would like more availability to their individual counselors also.
Okay.
Is that something that you are willing to do? I've had one person say that maybe make an app or something like that to try to be able to reach the person directly. What is something that you would do so the constituents could have better access to you? Now, I kind of think you're around all the time anyway.
Yes.
So, but do you have anything for that?
So one, I'm glad you actually mentioned that. I think that's a great idea. And if I can look into the technology for that, that'll be something I support. I'm also going to give kudos to one specific counselor, Mr. Glenday, who's my counselor for District 2. And the reason I say that is to answer the question, then I want to add in my own, is that he has often, when someone wants to meet him, he said, hey, meet me at Starbucks every morning because I'm there from 9 to whatever time, and he'll be there. And so I've walked in hoping to reach him, and I found him. So the things that I was advocating for my neighbors or for somebody, I was able to reach him. And so the answer to the question is being consistent and coming up with their own mechanism. A lot of our city councilors actually have full-time jobs. So it presents a challenge because being on city council is not a paid job. They receive a stipend, but it is not a paid job. So they too.
Well, we consider that paid over here on our side of the income bracket, though, brother.
Trust
but I
me,
got you.
We can argue about that. Okay. It's not an income. Let's say that. It's not an income that can sustain you. And so when understanding that, because counselors are people too, they're our neighbors too. They have families too, and they have to find their way that maintains themselves. So that is a challenge. I have made myself as much as accessible as I can, by phone, by text. I do love the technology of an app. I think that's really cool. And I think that is the way forward. How do we maintain continuity and connection to our community, which is something I'm really big on. It's not just getting in the seat, it's how do you maintain your relations with your constituents, with the community to keep things on track? Because like you say, a lot of people, they feel disenfranchised. Someone gets elected and then you don't see from them. You don't hear from them, and that's disheartening. And that's one of the things that I kept in mind when I decided that I wanted to run. And you know what I did, EJ? When I thought I would want to run, and I decided I want to run, I did not wait. I did not wait until it was time to qualify or time to do anything. I started as early as I could to make sure that the community knew I was serious, that I could meet as many people as I could to ensure that I would have the best chance on winning.
All right. Now I gotta ask you this. If a major donor supported your campaign, but they ended up disagreeing
Mhm.
with something that you feel, how will you handle that?
Well, first of all, if I had a major donor donating to my campaign, I would think they would get a very nice letter from me. That's first of all.
Okay.
But the question is, if I disagree with them,
Yes.
okay, so let's talk about this because now you're talking about ethics and you have to have moral character when serving this position. A generous donor does not make the keeper of Rocky Marsh because the campaign slogan for Rocky Marsh in this campaign is committed to Columbus, not committed to the donors, not committed to other people. It's committed to Columbus. When you serve in a position of trust, in order to maintain that trust, you must behave and act with the trust that is required of the position. That's simple.
All right. I'm gonna give you this one right here, because this is important to me. All right. Crime and public safety remain a concern here in Columbus. I know
Sure.
I referenced Shirley B earlier, and
Okay.
that's really close to me because one of the young men that lately who was unalived was someone that I knew.
Okay.
And what can we do? All right, we're gonna start broadly and then we'll walk it down into some
Okay.
specifics.
Okay. Well, first of all, my condolences for for knowing that you knew somebody. I'm sure that's a heavy thing to carry around with you, and I would expect that many family members are doing the same when that happens. I've my personal experience. I've lost a friend here in Columbus, Georgia, some years ago. It happened here in Columbus, Georgia, and so losing someone is near and dear to me, something that I would always want to be a part of solution to keep it from happening. Now, one thing that I do as a constituent, as just to be in person, I serve on one of our boards. I serve on the Columbus Crime Prevention Board. Now, the name I know most people might think, well, what do you prevent? Well, we invest in programs that help kids in activities and programs that detract them from other things that might not be serving them or their families or the community as well. But that's just one thing. But to your question, what can we do? Is that I want to make sure that I understand.
Yes.
We got to be involved. We got to be involved in the smaller things. And I know sometimes I know parents and communities, everything just costs money these days. To do anything, it just costs money. But we have to spend our time where we can, whether it be PTA, being with our kids at a rehearsal or practice, and even sometimes even spending the time is a cost because you might have two jobs. You would not believe how many people I know have two jobs to live one life. To live one life, they have back-to-back jobs. I go eat at Waffle House almost every morning, and I know several people there. When they finish their shift, they're going to take a break and they go work a second job to maintain one life. That's not include the kids. That's just their life. But back to your question of what can we do? Being involved where we can and electing people who advocate for something that I said earlier. We have to reinvest in ourselves. We have to reinvest in our communities. We have to reinvest in our programs like the programs that are part of or have been awarded by the Columbus Crime Prevention Committee or Crime Prevention Board. Some of those programs are doing great work. They keep kids. I visited these programs, the Let's Grow STEAM Expo, the Garden program. These are all great programs. So invest in ourselves, reimagining where we invest our dollars. Remember earlier, said we get a set amount of budget. Now we might have some public safety concerns, and this is a reimagining of public safety because that's a large amount of our budget. Rightly so, but it's a way you can distribute that public safety. It don't necessarily have to mean more police officers. It can be other technology and other methodologies that help us maintain safety. So it's a reimagining of what it means to be public safe invest in ourselves, and reinvest our time in our community.
Okay, I got two more for you. We need to cover data centers real quick. I would like to know your official position on data bringing this large data center that they're talking about bringing in
Okay.
soon. How you feel?
Well, what I feel is we have to look at what is the goal of Columbus. Let me explain. It is not as simple. Earlier you say, let me push back. I have to push and make sure that we identify what the conversation is. We have to keep the main thing the main thing. If it's not a data center, it's going to be something else. And we have, as a Columbus, need to understand and point out where it is we want to go in the future. So the biggest thing is everyone is talking about the footprint or the impact. It's not a simple yes or no. And I understand why their concerns are, because they've heard the horror stories. So what I have done as a candidate, as a constituent, as a fellow neighbor here in Columbus, Georgia, I've done my own research. I've attended the meetings that was held by Choose Columbus about when the data center is coming here to research, and at said meetings where they sharing the data and they're sharing what the plan is and they're sharing the subject matter experts who's given the data. I don't just take their word for it. I have looked it up myself. I've also taken it upon myself to speak with the subject matter experts who were mentioned in said meetings. And this is what I have found and come up with. But before I even come up and share that, let me say this. What I feel personally is different than what the constituents, if I was a counselor, that I would share. Because if the majority of Columbus does not want a data center, it does not matter what Rocky wants, yes or no. It is about representation of what the people want. Now, if I feel—
Hold on, I need you to rewind that. I need you to say that again, man, my guy.
Well, I mean, this
come
is
on,
what it
because
is.
this is very, very important.
This is why we're having this conversation, is that we have to separate me as the individual versus me as the representative of the people, 200,000 plus constituents of Columbus, Muskogee County. Is that I can have my own individual thought, but as a representative, I must represent in earnest what the people want. And now, if I feel like it's a good idea or a bad idea, my job is to communicate with the constituents and share why I think, but it's not to override what their voice is. So let me just put that out there. However, in the case of a data center, and let's be very clear about this, it is not the city of Columbus who is bringing the data center. It's not. This is a private enterprise where someone owned land, purchased land, and they are introducing this opportunity of this land, which so happens to be a data center. Okay. So that's one thing. The second thing is the name of the project is Project Ruby. Now, you may ask, why do I care what the name is as a data center? Because all data centers are not made the same. They're not operated the same. They are not.
They don't have the same carbon footprint, use the same stuff.
They don't.
Because we actually have some here already.
We have several.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
We have several. In small business, people don't even know that we have several buildings that have a data center. And I don't know if anybody has ever, of your listeners or viewers, have actually walked into a form of a data center, but sometimes they're just a warehouse with a bunch of computers. That's really what it is. So me personally, I'm not afraid of the data center itself. However, we do have to look at the technology that's going to be used, how it extends. This particular project, Project Ruby, is using some newer technology of previous data center footprints, which when I look at them side by side, you really have to compare apples to apples. One data center does not look like the next data center. The second thing, this is going to be in the northeast corner. I think that's District 6 of the data center. The reason I mention that is because that area that it sits in is going to be on a different power grid than Columbus Power. I think it's going to be on Flint. There are several power grids that encompasses Muskogee County, Columbus, Georgia. I think I'm on diverse power.
Flint goes out towards Talbotton and all of that.
Yes.
Yep.
I'm on diverse power, which goes into Harris County. Then you got Columbus Power, which majority. So that's a big thing. The second thing is it is using a technology that I really am intrigued about. Because a lot of people were worried about the water intake, their water bill, which is a valid concern. I would not be in favor of something that's soaking up more water every day that's increasing my bills. I agree. However, after looking at this, what it appears to be is this specific project, Project Ruby, is going to be using a closed loop system. And whatever is the water intake that's needed to operate Project Ruby, once it fills up, let's say it's 100,000 gallons. I'm just giving a number. Okay. 100,000 gallons. When it fills up, it's going to keep recycling it. Now, if it loses 10% of water, at some point it'll fill up to 10%, but then it'll keep reusing the 100 gallons. So it's not using, when they say using 100 gallons a day, that's mean it's operating with that 100,000 gallons a day. And now if it was soaking up 100,000, that'd be a different story, but it's a closed loop system. Now, I did recently attend a town hall where some subject matter experts shared their own findings. So one of the cool things that I thought was, as far as power and they did share that a closed loop is a very efficient way to reduce their carbon footprint. They did, however, say that when you use a closed loop system, it may require more energy consumption to keep it running, which I thought was great because I never seen that comparison introduced when in the conversation of what's good, what's bad, what's up, what's down. So I'm very interested in technology. So if I had to sum it up, it's not that I'm personally against or for a data center. It's about what is the technology and the carbon footprint going to look like. And then the final and the most important is after all the information is given, shared, discussed, what do the people of Columbus and Muskogee County want? And then I'm gonna finish off with the last thing is, if it's not a data center, and now one thing I did at a particular meeting because I'm always interested in if it's a yes or no, but what's in the future? So I attended one of the meetings and I asked,
what's the next play if this don't work out?
If this don't work out, because you know what, EJ, your listeners, they're hearing this conversation, but they don't know me and you get a chance to talk about this often. People in Columbus scream and complain about stuff. They want stuff. But in order to have something, sometimes we have to introduce something new. Something we have to try something that we haven't tried. It don't have to be Project Ruby, this data center, but we have to look at new innovative ways. We have to reimagine opportunities that may come. So at said meeting, one of the information centers, information forums for the data center, I asked specifically because this project is bringing, if I remember correctly, 195 jobs that going to have a income of 80,000, I believe, or I can't remember the number, or higher, which is good for this area. But it's only 195 jobs. So I asked, where are those 195 jobs or people coming from? Well, on the initial launch, guess where they're not coming from? They're not coming from, majority probably not coming from Columbus because the skill set it takes to do the job is not here in Columbus. So I asked the CEO of Choose Columbus, is there a future plan to create a pipeline of training of technicians so that when those 195, when those people leave or they hire new or they expand, that we don't no longer hire someone outside of Columbus, Muskogee County. Instead, it is a pipeline that we can introduce some technology because I believe that job is a engineer. And as I understand it right now, we don't have an engineering school here in Columbus, Georgia, but we could. We should. and we can. So while we may not necessarily want this particular data center, the possibility of a Project Ruby or another opportunity may create a gateway for something else that we've been wanting here in Columbus, Georgia.
All right. Last question. Today is Monday, March 16th. It is 5:55.
Okay.
Fast forward 4 years from now,
Mm-hmm.
on exactly the same date, same time.
Okay.
What are we going to be talking about in this interview? When I ask you, hey, what has happened during these 4 years? What can you say you can point to that either you have brought or the city has changed? What would you like to say?
Oh, that's really a great question. One, because if it's 4 years from now, let me tell you, let me share something else with you. I don't know if I should share this, but that'll put us in another election cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So you know what I would love to be sitting here is telling you the accomplishment that I made and why you should reelect me, because I was accomplishing something and I want to accomplish more. So in the areas of what I would like to see happen, I would like to see some kind of new economic impact opportunity for Columbus. Not necessarily the data center or Project Ruby, but what is something that we don't already have that is creating a gateway of opportunity for up and coming young professionals, young people that keeps them here in Columbus, Georgia. I would love to see the retention rate increased in Columbus, Georgia. Right now, I believe we have a 30% that are just leaving. I would love to keep our retention rate of not just the people who are from here who graduate college. I would love to see people who we have
Who come to CSU to go to school
come in and then they
stay.
leave. I would love to see that retention rate increase to about 50%, or at least on a trend of reaching 50% with over 10 years. Because once we have a higher retention rate, we will have a way. But this is something that we have to do hand in hand, because it's not just one goal or another. Similar goals have to go up and work in tandem together. We have to do a better job working with our federal, corporate, private organizations about where to place these people. If we spend time creating opportunities, creating jobs, creating programs, where are they going to go, EJ? You train somebody to do a job. You got to have a job waiting on them. You got to have opportunities, agencies, organizations, corporations waiting and looking for these people. So the goal is to create pipeline from end to end. So not only creating opportunities and incentives for people to stay here, train, or buy a house, buy a home, but what's their quality of life going to be once they receive the education, the training, the home, the opportunity? We have to create the whole pipeline of full quality of life.
All right. 30 seconds. Last thing you want to tell them, why to vote for you, and we'll get up out of here.
Well, this conversation is basically talking about what Columbus says they want, their concerns. And I think from this conversation and my travels around the city, I've heard over and over again, they want leadership that's showing up, that truly matches what they say and just really represents them. And I believe I do that. So I'm asking all your viewers, your listeners, to make sure that their voter registration is up to date by April 20th. I also want them to know that early voting starts on April the 27th, and we will have 3 locations here in the Columbus, Georgia, from Sunday through Saturday, open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. at those 3 locations. And finally, I would love to earn their vote as their next city council District 9 at-large citywide, servicing the 200,000+ constituents of Columbus and Muskogee County on Election Day, which is Tuesday, May the 19th. So to you, thank you for the conversation. And to your listeners and viewers, I'll see you at the polls.